It's 2 weeks until Christmas, and students at Eastern Michigan University are finishing up the semester and getting ready to travel home to see family and friends. Laura Dickinson gets together with friends from a rowing crew for a Secret Santa gift exchange. In a few days, she'll be done classes and on her way home to Hastings, Michigan, to celebrate the holidays with her parents and her boyfriend. But the day after the party, she fails to show up for her Spanish test. And when her friends and family can't reach her, they start to worry. Days later, she's found in her dorm room. Her family is told she died from a heart attack. But what they're not told, and what the university covers up, is that they suspect Laura's death is no accident.
Was it a robbery gone bad? Was it an invasion gone bad?
It's murder, and it may be one of their own students. It's December 12th, 2006, and the Eastern Michigan University campus is getting ready to wind down for winter break.
Most students are eager to finish midterms and travel home for the holidays, and Laura Dickinson is no exception.
Laura takes a physiology test between the hours of 12:30 and 1:30 p.m., after which she does some shopping in preparation for this evening's Secret Santa party. Laura remembers the advice her father Bob gave her. Make lots of friends, call if you get lonely, and always keep the door locked. Early in the semester, Laura takes this advice to heart and joins the novice rowing crew. When she's not in class, she spends her mornings on the water and her evenings hanging out with her teammates. Laura uses her meal card in the dining hall and has dinner with several members of her rowing team. Laura's friends plan to catch a ride with her to the Christmas party after dinner.
Here you have Laura, who is a kind young woman. She acts as a shuttle service for her friends. She's constantly doing favors for people. A great personality, close to her family. Going to college, university to further her education and have a career. The typical all-American girl.
Laura and company arrive at the Secret Santa party at about 7 p.m. The party is hosted by Laura's best friend in a common area at her dorm. There are about 15 young women in attendance.
According to her boyfriend, Laura will have a glass of wine with dinner on occasion, but tonight no one is drinking.
The girls all exchange gifts.
It's a Secret Santa party, which means everyone secretly gives a gift to someone whose name they've drawn at random. Laura gets a stuffed animal and some makeup.
The party breaks up around 10:30 p.m.
It's a weeknight, and everyone still has a few days of classes and exams. Laura leaves with several friends that she'd promised to ride home to.
This particular evening, she's dropping friends off at various points, and she arrives at Hill Hall at approximately 11 p.m. In any setting where there's a large amount of people, mixed male, female, guests, you have to be aware of your surroundings. And she was aware that she had to be cautious walking in the dark around a campus with thousands of people on site. Things can go wrong, things can happen, but she was astute enough to be careful and look after herself.
Laura's mistrust is founded in more than just general fear. In recent years, the Eastern Michigan University has been at the center of some controversy. In the last 3 years, they've gone through 3 presidents.
In 2004, state auditors found that the university underreported the budget and failed to get the state approval for a $6 million mansion for its president at the time.
At the beginning of the school year in September, the controversy fuels a 2-week staff strike. 3 of the school's 8 regents resigned, citing a campus culture of distrust and open animosity. This negative climate on campus is being felt by the students as well as by the teaching staff.
Campus video shows her entering her dorm at 11 p.m. safely. There is video all over campus, and they're able to see this through the video on the campus, which, as time goes, there's many other things show up in this video as well, which should have been picked up. Laura contacts her boyfriend Travis at 11:13 p.m. Cell phone call ends at shortly after 12 a.m. and at close to 12:30 a.m. she logs off the internet and goes to bed.
This timeline is important. It shows that Laura is active in school, with her social groups, and with her boyfriend, keeping in touch with him daily through phone calls and texts.
The following morning, Laura has a test in her Spanish class. But the day after the party, she fails to show up.
This is highly abnormal behavior. Laura has an excellent attendance record.
But another day passes without a word from Laura.
As the day goes on, no one has seen or heard from Laura. She doesn't use her meal card or eat in the cafeteria, and her friends have been trying to reach her, but there's been no response to their phone calls and texts. Even if her phone were dead, surely she would have made physical contact with one of her friends on campus or used her laptop to email her boyfriend.
So her boyfriend Travis tries to contact her the following day, doesn't get a reply. That's normal, cell phones die, people leave them at home. But it's the value of cell phones that you can place a time when you know that she was not responding, and you'll be able to check on that phone and see if it was dead or not.
It's Thursday evening, and it's been nearly 48 hours now since Travis last heard from Laura. He calls her friends, but it's always the same story. No one's heard from her.
I always like to use the term family and friends know best. And when someone's not in contact with you when they normally are on a regular basis, you have reason to be suspicious that something's wrong. She didn't use her meal card at the university. There's been no cell phone contact. That is totally abnormal for someone who does things in a mechanical manner like clockwork.
Travis decides that something is wrong and plans to drive out to her campus the following day. By Friday, December 15th, there are 31 missed calls on Laura's phone. Travis begins the 2-hour drive from Hastings, Michigan to the EMU campus. On the same morning that Travis is making his way to campus, several complaints from residents at Hill Hall are phoned in to facility services, claiming a putrid odor on the 5th floor of Hill Hall.
To the untrained eye, it's just a bad smell, but someone who would know may possibly think that it could be the smell of a decomposing body, but they don't know that. So they contact the campus authorities to come and check the room 518 where they believe the odor is coming from.
Upon entering the room, the employee observes the body of who he believes to be Laura lying on the floor beside the bed. The body is already in a state of progressive decomposition. The first stage of human decomposition is autolysis, which means self-digestion, and it starts immediately after death.
So the maintenance staff open the door, which they have a pass key for. Once inside, they see a body laying on the floor, pillow over the head, naked from the waist down. They then call the campus police, who make the obvious determination that this could be some form of foul play, and they then contact the sheriff's department, and they bring in the forensic team to examine this crime scene.
What happens next causes some controversy in the weeks and months to follow. Laura's death is reported to the university administration, but investigators are asked to keep all the details under wraps.
In every case, it's called holdback evidence. You hold back things that you know only the accused and you know, or you believe that to be true. So there's always pieces you keep as holdback evidence. That's quite common. And in this particular case, they obviously had no suspect at this point in time, multiple people accessing a university campus, and until they get the results from the autopsy and confirmation of what occurred, they have to keep this kind of close to the vest so that misinformation don't get out and they may alert a suspect. So there's many reasons why you do holdback evidence to the public at this point. It doesn't have to stay that way for long, but at certain points you have to hold back scene evidence.
While EMU reports to Laura's family that her death appears to be from natural causes, there are some key details they've left out. Internally, they begin investigating her death as a murder and are careful to keep this secret from the public. But why? What are they hiding?
On December 15th, 3 days after the last known contact with Laura, students complain of a foul odor on the 5th floor of Hill Hall. Her body, discovered by a university maintenance worker in her dorm room, is already in a state of decay. She's been dead for days. Campus security contact Laura's family to inform them of her passing, stating that she died from a heart attack. But secretly, investigators believe she died under suspicious circumstances and are treating the death as a murder. Campus and state police combine efforts. They search the crime scene for clues.
In a dorm room, if you're comfortable with the surroundings, it's quite common not to lock your door. You're traveling back and forth between friends' rooms and whatnot. Maybe you forget to lock it. Or if you lock it, it would indicate that someone had access through a key or a master key to get in the room. You don't know this at the time. You have to start investigating why or how this happened, because there's several possibilities why the door was locked and there's foul play inside the room.
Laura's body is found on the floor, lying face up next to a single bed. Her feet are oriented towards the entry door, and her head is oriented towards the window. Her head's been turned to the left, and a white pillow covers her face. On the floor, partly under her body and partly on the bed, are the blanket and top sheet. The mattress sheet is wrinkled towards the center of the room, which indicates that she may have been pulled in that direction. She's clothed only in a white tank top.
On the day Laura's body is discovered, Friday, December 15th, her boyfriend Travis had been making his way to campus to check on her.
Fortunately, he isn't the one who discovers her body, and by the time he arrives, campus police and detectives are already there.
So they're starting to look at this as a crime. They're not telling anybody, they're not telling the public, not telling the university, not telling the family, not telling the boyfriend that it's a crime, for whatever reason. So they interview Travis, and they get from him that she usually sleeps with pajama bottoms or a nightie on. This would be abnormal for her not to have an undergarment on while in bed. He's very cooperative. Obviously, he had been on the cell phone with her. They were able to track that, and they're able to place his whereabouts. So you always start close to home with suspects, or potential suspects, and then you move the parameter of that out. So they're starting at the right spot to interview him.
Based on Travis's statement and the fact that Laura is found naked from the waist down, investigators search for the missing bottoms.
They didn't find any undergarments at the scene. She was naked from the waist down. They searched the room, couldn't find any obvious underpants or what she might have been wearing. You would then surmise that possibly the suspect took the undergarment as a souvenir, which is quite common in sex crimes.
The detective notices that Laura's cell phone is plugged into a charger sitting on the table. When he goes over to it, he sees that she has 31 missed calls.
In the room, Laura's laptop sits open on top of her desk. Under the desk is Laura's purse, which is slightly open with contents still inside of it.
So it doesn't take long when you investigate a scene, when you have a potential victim of a sexual assault, murder. Was it a robbery gone bad? Was it an invasion gone bad? In this particular case, all the valuables are in place. The things that would normally be stolen from a small dorm room are there, with the exception of her key ring, which contains her room key and her car keys. If the person is familiar with the dorms and the key structure, he would recognize the key, or she would recognize the key on that ring and be able to lock the door upon leaving the room, which would prevent anyone from discovering the body for some time, buying the suspect time to cover their tracks, disappear, whatever the person wished to do.
Investigators later locate Laura's car in the lot where she had last parked it. It's locked and doesn't appear to be tampered with. Through interviews, investigators learn that Laura was last seen the night of the Secret Santa party with a white bag.
During their search of her room, they don't find this bag and figure that the killer must have taken it along with her keys.
Laura's boyfriend agrees to submit to an oral swab for DNA testing. He's still unaware that he may be a suspect in her death. As part of a criminal sexual conduct kit, Laura's shirt is collected, and so are samples from underneath the fingernails on both of her hands. Fingerprints are also lifted. Unfortunately, some details that might have shown how Laura died are not present due to the body's state of advanced decomposition. The coroner concludes that Laura died of asphyxiation, either due to strangulation or being smothered.
This is not consistent with the university's original findings that Laura suffered a heart attack. However, no updated announcement goes out either publicly or to Laura's family. Detectives continue investigating this case as a homicide, but they do so in secret. Obviously, Laura's friends are distraught. Mere days ago, the energy here was festive, with everyone looking forward to the holidays. But now one of their own is gone. They're disturbed that someone so young could die so suddenly.
Laura's friends are united in their collective grief over losing one of their own. Young people can experience many emotions in a time like this. They can feel guilty for not having done more, even though there may have been nothing they could have done. They can feel afraid that something like this could happen to them. They could also be in denial that anything at all had happened.
You can imagine what the rest of the students and the family would be going through. Horrible grief. But they do not know how serious this is. Grief versus fear are two different things. And if you have a predator on the campus or in the area, you would now start to take cautionary steps for yourself, making sure your door is locked, making sure you travel in pairs. There's things that you do to protect yourself if you are advised that there's a crime occurred in your dorm or in an adjacent dorm. Why this was not done is a mystery to me.
Investigators canvass Hill Hall Dormitory, asking residents if they've seen or heard anything suspicious over the past week.
A young resident recalls an incident that occurred on December 13th, the day after Laura was last seen alive.
So on December 13th, between 11 and 11:30 p.m., a female dorm member hears a knock on her door, looks through the peephole, sees a male that she does not know, opens the door to talk to him. He's looking for marijuana, supposedly, and she says she's not going to let him in because she's not properly dressed. He looks at her name on the door, says her name. He departs, leaves the area. Doesn't go to any doors in the area because she checked to see if he had knocked on other doors. She found it very strange, which is probably why her recall of his description was so accurate.
Is it possible that the killer returns to the same residence the day after the crime? Or is this just a random coincidence, unrelated to Laura's murder? Investigators review CCTV footage from the night of the murder.
In scanning the available videotape, they discover that on December 11th, what they believe to be the same male has gone into another dorm, entered 2 rooms where girls were sleeping, and stole laptops and stuff from the rooms. So obviously they have a break-and-enter suspect on campus who's very familiar with the buildings, aware that these doors are unlocked, and he's going building to building with the cover story of looking for marijuana, but he's actually looking to steal material from girls that are sleeping where the doors are unlocked or empty rooms. So through the video, they were able to determine that he probably does not have keys to the dorm, so he's not a student or someone who is working there, that he's just familiar with the campus and able to somehow navigate around without being seen, so he's an obvious thief. Campus police are reviewing the video. Obviously, they're reviewing in tandem with the detective investigating this, and they recognize this individual as Orange Taylor, someone who they are familiar with from whatever reason being around the campus.
Taylor was residing in Buell Hall until August 2006 when he was removed for causing problems. Even though he's a student at EMU, he's banned from the residency halls.
Given the lack of bruising or any other defensive wounds, it's very likely that Laura had no time to react.
When someone is asleep, it's a very easy target to take a pillow, for example, put over their head and suffocate them. They are unable to fight back, they're sleeping, so you've got a jump on them for timing. If you're on top of them and holding them down, it is very difficult for anyone to fight back, regardless of the strength factor or the size factor. You've got the element of surprise, which is always advantageous when you're trying to cause harm to someone. He obviously has the keys. Locks the door behind him when he leaves. He's in the room for approximately 90 minutes, which is more than enough time to commit the crime. Leaves the building, and then the investigation starts.
Investigators zero in on Orange Taylor as their primary suspect.
Even though he's a student at EMU, in the weeks following the murder, no one sees him on or around campus. Finally, over a month after the murder on January 16, 2007, investigators put in a request with the Michigan State Police for a surveillance team to track down this guy so they can bring him in for questioning. What's most disturbing about this is that we're now over a month into the murder investigation. Police have a viable suspect who they believe committed sexual assault and murder. His whereabouts are unknown, and the university still hasn't issued any sort of public warning that a killer might be loose on campus.
There's been a murder on the campus at Eastern Michigan University, but the administration is keeping the details quiet. And as far as students and faculty know, Laura Dickinson died of a heart attack. Investigators find several valuable items untouched in Laura's dorm room, making them suspect that it's not a robbery gone wrong, but that someone entered the room with the express purpose of murdering her. An autopsy reveals the cause of death to be asphyxiation. The killer likely smothers her with a pillow. And semen found at the scene suggests the killer sexually assaults her. As investigators go through security footage, they identify the man they believe to be Laura's killer, Orange Taylor, a fellow student. But so far, they've been unable to track him down. For Laura's parents, burying their daughter is the hardest thing they've ever had to do.
Laura's mom describes her daughter as a smiling, compassionate ray of sunshine and says she'll miss the support and love that Laura gave to herself and her husband, Bob.
All over campus, students hold candlelight vigils for the loss of one of their own.
Laura's hometown of Hastings, Michigan has a population of only about 7,500 people. So when a death happens to one of their community, it's felt by everyone. It has a majorly big impact. After graduating from Grand Rapids Community College, she wanted to get a Bachelor of Nutrition, and she chose the program at EMU because it was well known for being good, and it was only a 2-hour drive away.
While Laura's family and community grieve and try to put their lives back together, a criminal investigation is quietly ongoing. Then, on January 17th, something puzzling happens.
Laura's dad opens her credit card statement not expecting to find anything strange, but what he does find surprises him. There's activity on December 22nd, which is almost 2 weeks after Laura dies.
So the first real break, apart from knowing this person is on the campus and is a suspect, comes 9 days later when her credit card is tried to be utilized in New York City.
The EMU police pass this information on to investigators, who contact New York detectives to ask for assistance in tracking down whoever may have used the card.
You would think this would be a great time to inform her parents of an ongoing criminal investigation, but that's not what happens. The Dickinsons remain in the dark.
To not have the family advised, or the boyfriend advised, or the public advised that this has occurred is obviously strange to me, but I believe it was also late in the cycle. It should have been done at some point in time before she's been buried, that they should know what happened. And they're in the process of doing this, but they've delayed quite a time before they update the family, in my opinion. So through Travis's alibi, and obviously the phone record of where he was, what he was doing at the time, ruled him out as a suspect. He's extremely cooperative with the police. Orange Taylor is still at large, and they have this credit card use in New York, which is now being followed up to try to pin this guy down, bring him in for questioning, and try to find out what his story is, why he's in possession of a dead person's credit card.
Finally, on January 25th, 2007, Michigan State Police, running surveillance on Taylor, track him down. Taylor agrees to come in for questioning.
So they apprehend Orange Taylor, and they inform him of what they have on video, that they have him in the building, they have him near her room at the time of her death. So through the interview process, he admits, yes, I'm a thief. I walked in her room, she was already dead on the floor, I took some items and left. A stupid thief, because if that was the case, all he had to do was contact the police, take a minor theft charge, and absolve himself of a crime of murder. But he chose to take things, lock the door, and leave, and take her credit card and use it. These are very good indicators for the police during an investigation. You got him on the run, you got him lying, now is to keep pinning him down.
He also draws a diagram of the room for detectives and points to where Laura was lying on the floor. Given this and his admission to break and enter and theft, now detectives have enough to hold him.
Taylor submits to having his fingerprints taken and also an oral swab for DNA analysis. If he's not going to admit to killing Laura, hopefully this evidence will incriminate him. The fingerprints may not be all that damning of evidence, considering that Taylor readily admits to being in the room. However, the detectives are hopeful that the DNA sample will match the semen found at the crime scene.
On February 23, 2007, investigators received the results of the DNA test.
The semen found at the crime scene on the bed and on Laura's thigh is a match to Orange Taylor.
The police execute a search warrant on Taylor's parents' residence, and they find a black hoodie, which possibly could be the hoodie that he was wearing in the video when he left Hill Hall.
Forensics confirms that fibers from this sweater match those found on the pillow used to smother the victim. Investigators then call Laura's parents to tell them what really happened to their daughter.
It's hard to imagine what receiving that call must be like. For 2 months now, Deb and Bob have believed that their daughter's death was due to a heart attack. This is the first time they're hearing that Laura was raped and murdered. It opens up a whole new set of wounds.
The unknown factor in a case like this is here's someone going into rooms with sleeping girls. He doesn't attack them. What sparks him to have the desire to attack her? As a policeman, you don't know what does this. And as a family, you're always second guessing. Why my daughter? Why my child? What did they do? They did nothing. They did nothing to bring this on themselves. And the blame, the doubt, what could we have done? So all of these things impact on the family, which you're not aware of as a police officer, but it does, and there's nothing you can do. It just happened because of the person is a creep and decided to do it to that person at that time.
Given the DNA results, Taylor is brought in once again for questioning.
So regardless of what the police are showing him and telling him, he's continuing to deny that he murdered Laura. When there's a case like this, there's always a preliminary hearing. They go and the judge determines if there's sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. If he decides that the trial is then set for months later. So it is probably going to occur in the spring of the following year after they take him to an arraignment for the preliminary hearing.
It doesn't take long before news of Taylor's arrest hits the press.
Days after Taylor's arrest, an article comes out accusing the university of sitting on information that jeopardizes public and campus safety.
The article cites the county medical examiner as the one who confirmed that the details of the death were immediately suspicious and that foul play had to be suspected all along.
As a student and family members of the students at that campus, I would be extremely upset, and they obviously were extremely upset when they find out that a girl was murdered in their midst and they were not told at the time. This has extreme potential for further damage until they apprehend the suspect. The suspect was not apprehended until he used a credit card, so there's an extensive time gap, which is dangerous to anyone on that campus, and it's unbelievable to me why the information was not given, at least to the students of that university, that there was a predator roaming their campus.
The sitting president denies any knowledge that Laura's death was a murder. The blame then falls on the vice president, who's put on paid administrative leave while an independent investigation can be done into the university's handling of the case.
There are now 2 investigations ongoing. That of the accused Orange Taylor and the university that covered it up. Michigan State Police finally track Orange Taylor down and bring him in for questioning. But Taylor leans into the university's earlier narrative that Laura died from a heart attack and claims that he entered her room only to rob her, but finds her already dead, thus denying the murder allegations. Even when DNA results show that semen found at the crime scene matches Taylor, he continues to deny killing her, forcing the case to go to trial.
So regardless of what the police are showing him and telling him, he's continuing to deny that he murdered Laura.
As preposterous as this defense may seem, it's not without a degree of plausibility. All they need to do is create doubt amongst the jurors. The deceptiveness of the EMU administration may have created an out for Taylor. While Laura's murder may not have been premeditated far in advance, the state only needs to prove that it was intended. From the evidence, it appears that once Taylor sets his sights on Laura, he knew what he was doing, and he showed no remorse.
Meanwhile, a second investigation is ongoing.
The University Department of Education is conducting an investigation into whether or not the university violated a federal campus crime reporting law. Known as the Cleary Act, it was signed into federal law in 1990.
Jean Cleary was a victim at a university in Pennsylvania, and the family pushed to get that policy changed so that these crimes that occur on campuses are recorded and tracked and stored so people can access them. So this would be Jean's law that brought that into place, which would go to protect future people at campuses across the United States. The good that can come from these horrible crimes is that, in most cases, the parent or parents of a victim start pushing legislatures, pushing governments to make changes, pushing universities to change policies in some of the cases, and that's what happened here. So as you see throughout the entire country, there's Katie's Law, Haley's Law, all these laws that are promoted for the victim are usually given the victim's name. And from this, a law was created which forced universities to report crimes publicly on their website so that people can look at their record and see what is going on the campus, and then parents and students can decide, I either do or do not want to go to that university. Have they cleaned up their act or not? It was a necessary piece of policy to put in place given what happened on this campus. For example, Katie's Law, which was promoted by her family, which led to the formation of CODIS, which was the Coordinated DNA Index System. The Baker Law, which was promoted by a former legislature for parents to be able to take children with mental illness to an institution involuntarily to have them checked out. Different laws have been brought in. Marchman Law is where a child has drug and mental problems. Different statute. You can involuntarily put them into an institution for check and treatment. So all of these things come in after a tragedy, which is meant to save other people from being victimized.
On March 30th, 2007, after a 2-day preliminary hearing, Taylor is ordered to stand trial for murder. The trial date is set for October 15th, 2007. On June 8, 2007, Eastern Michigan University Regents released the Butzel-Long report.
As a result of a 500-page report subject to the Cleary Act, there was many changes made at that university. People lost their positions, there was monetary penalties put in place, and changes to their entire security system on how they handled crimes and investigations. A little too late, but better late than never.
This is a big win for students at EMU and Laura's family, who unjustly suffered because of the university's cover-up. On July 16th, just days after the ruling, the board fires the president and reaches separation agreements with directors of EMU's public safety department.
Orange Taylor's trial begins on October 15th, 2007.
As the investigation into Taylor proceeds, obviously he's changing his story. He's upping the odds of him having an alibi, so to speak, for not killing her. He says that he ejaculated over her body. That's why his DNA was there. These details he neglected to tell the police upon first being apprehended. Now, the circumstantial points and factual points are all starting to meld together, and the police are probably getting very close to being able to lay a charge against him at this time for murder.
Unfortunately, due to the advanced state of decomposition by the time an autopsy was performed, the coroner can't conclusively state whether Laura was sexually penetrated.
Through the investigation, they find female hygiene product thrown across the room, which she had obviously had on her. The boyfriend's testimony about her always wearing undergarments when she was in bed. This combined with the DNA, with his admission to being in the room, him taking things from the room, it all adds up now to a pretty solid case. Piece by piece by piece, you have a great chance of a conviction for murder.
Taylor's defense suggests that the coroner arrived at the conclusion that death was due to asphyxiation without having performed tests that may have proved that she died from a pre-existing heart ailment.
Defense counsel always comes up with hypothetical situations of doubt. And as a police officer, it's frustrating that they are quite willing to get up and basically lie through their teeth about what happened with the suspect when it's obvious that she was sleeping. She was incapacitated through suffocation before she even knew what was happening. So these are all desperate efforts by a defense team to give a gullible judge or a gullible jury reasonable doubt. It never usually works, but sometimes it does.
On October 24th, 2007, after less than 2 weeks of trial, the jury comes back, deadlocked. Most members enter guilty pleas, but some state that they cannot convict him beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a mistrial, and a second trial is planned for the new year.
Naturally, there is public outrage over the result of the trial, but friends of the family say that they're not out for vengeance. They just want justice for their daughter and are confident that that will still happen.
The second trial begins on March 31st, 2008.
Well, the end result is that justice is served. He's convicted of murder, larceny, theft, sexual assault, the whole gamut of charges that they laid against him. It's no satisfaction or relief to the family, but at least they know justice has been served, their daughter's killer has been put away, and he's not going to harm anyone else on that campus.
Just before sentencing, Taylor claims that he did not kill Laura. This is the only thing he said at either trial, as he refused to take the stand and testify. He states, "I may have done things that were inappropriate, but one thing I am not is a murderer."
He gets a sentence of life imprisonment, which in my mind is totally justified.
Though the result of Taylor's first trial created great upset for Laura's friends and family, they can finally try to heal and move on with their lives, knowing justice has been served.